Hi, welcome back. Today we're going to go through a simple tutorial about how to install an LED light into this Hasbro Ultimate clone rifle. In the tutorial I'm going to show you the most easiest and simplest way to install the LED light to the trigger system without having too much technical knowledge or too many fancy tools. Hope you enjoy. Right, so the first thing we're going to do is detach the front end of the Hasbro Blaster rifle. Now I've already pre-drilled in the top of the part, so it will make it easier to cut through, and what I'm going to use is a cheap LED light from the pound shop, and I'm going to use the front crown of this as the front of my blaster. I also got some cable about 1 meter long which I'm going to use, and also then I got a battery which has a 9-volt adapter on the top of it which fits in nicely inside. But first we need to drill the hole, and we're going to use the scissors to make this bigger. Now please be careful when using a scissors not to cut yourself, and do take care. So it takes a little bit of time, but with a bit of patience you can grind out the hole with the scissors to the right size to fit the top of the LED torch. Now I'm going to take a screwdriver and undo all the screws carefully, keeping them aside in a safe place and not to lose them. Once you have it out, now this is the section that we're going to actually take out of the actual front part. So we're going to use a pliers, and once that's out we should be able to fit the battery piece in. So using a needle nose pliers we're cutting through the plastic. Again, be very careful when doing this, and then your finish will be a nice hole which will take the battery adapter. Now, next thing we need to do is actually glue the actual LED cover into the top. Now this is my LED light that I have. It's a blue light which I picked up out of an old toy, and then had the cables. And this is the 9-volt adapter, the socket on it. So first of all we're going to attach the actual cable to the LED light and the battery to make sure that everything works. So when you've spliced new cabling, it's always advisable that you twist it to make sure you get a good connectivity to whatever you are connecting it to. So now I'm just twisting it and connecting it to the ends. Now if you have a soldering iron, sure, please solder them together, but as we're doing this on the cheap, we're just going to twist, bend and retwist. This is a form of plaiting that is quite often used. This actual form of plaiting cables was actually used by the Chinese when putting in the telephone service in America. They used to plait the telephone wires together. And by plaiting like this, then if the cable is accidentally pulled or overstressed, they will not come undone. Now this is my connected for my 9-volt battery. Make sure the ends are not touching, otherwise I'll short it out. But first let's see, does the LED light up? Okay, just got to change the cables around. There we go, and she's working perfectly. Now put that to one side. The next thing we need to do now is put some tape over these connections to make sure they don't touch while inside the unit. So we're going to use some electrical tape. This is pretty easy to find in any type of utility shop or pound shop. You can get maybe 2 or 3 pieces for £1 or something like that. So we're just going to cut some short strips and then attach these over the cables to make sure that they don't accidentally touch each other while they're inside the front handguard. You don't have to be fancy with this, as long as it's completely covering the connection, you should be fine. Now the next thing we're going to do is also cover up near the light, just in case they get squashed at any point while putting it in. We don't want them touching either. Now, once we have all that done, we're going to give it press down, make sure everything's okay, and we're going to give it one more coat of electrical tape to keep everything nicely together. And this should hold everything firmly in place while it's inside the front part of the blaster. Once again, test it to make sure everything's working fine, and she's working fine. Now, next part, we're going to heat glue the actual LED into the cover here. Just putting a few dabs inside, and very quickly now we're going to place the LED to the right height inside until it's stuck into place. Here we are. And once it sets a little bit, then we're going to fill up the inside with more hot glue. Now you can use other types of solvents, glues. I'm just using a hot glue gun because it's handy for me. Try not to use super glue, as that tends to leave a white smear over things once it sets. So use any type of soft glue would be better. Again, just check it to make sure everything's okay. And she's working fine. Yeah, there she is. Nice and bright now. Now we need to place this inside the front part of the gun. So first of all, we're going to feed the cables through, and then once again we're going to give some hot glue tips and then glue it into place. Hold it for a few seconds into the right position until the hot glue starts to set a little bit. Then once you have it exactly where you want it, then you can fill in the space with some more hot glue just to make it more secure. Now, I don't want it being too much. Just want to have it at a nice height, and I'm just filling up all the gap in between to make sure it's nice and snug and not going anywhere. And I'm just going to clean off any excess. We don't want them showing up when we paint it later on, so we're just going to smooth it out with our fingers. Don't be scared, it's not going to be that hot, or if you really want to, you can always lick the end of your finger before rubbing it. There we are. Now test it one more time to make sure everything's okay, and she's working fine. Now we're going to place the battery pack inside. Before doing that, we need to splice the cables. So just pull them apart a little bit with our fingers so we get a nice line in between, and then using a sharp knife we're going to splice down the center of between the two cables. Now be very careful when doing this, make sure you don't cut yourself. Now you need about 2 inches or so, and then either using pliers or the knife again if it's very sharp, and just splice one side of the cable open. Then I'm just going to strip back some of the cable to expose it, because we need this for connecting. Again, twisting to make sure we have a good connection. and do the same on the other side. And now we're going to attach our 9-volt battery converter, or connection should I say, sorry. Again, we're just stripping away some of the wire so we get a good length for connecting. Again, if you have a soldering iron, you can solder this if you wish, but I usually find the cheap and quickest way is just to twist and plait them together. Fold it over to make sure that if it's pulled it won't give, and again give it a quick twist. Now be careful not to over twist, otherwise the cable, so that the copper wire can break if you twist it too much, but don't be afraid of it. You should be able to give it quite a lot of twist before it will break. Again, just bend it over there now, and again another little twist. Now again, we're going to cover this with electrical tape to make sure that the contacts do not touch each other. And now we're just going to give it another coating of electrical tape to keep everything firmly in place. Now I have put another piece of electrical tape around the actual batteries itself, so I can pull it out again later on when I need to. And that all fits in nicely. Again, just a quick test to make sure everything's okay. And then we can go to the next step. Now we need to figure out how we're going to run the cable from the front compartment to the middle compartment and then down to the trigger system. So we're going to unconnect, and there is these notches inside which we can use, and there's this little push button on the other side which we can use as well. So first of all, we're going to take all the screws out of the middle section just to check where the cable is going to go. Taking it apart very carefully, make sure nothing's connected, and there's the inside of the middle section. Just give it a quick check to make sure everything's in place and there's no loose wires or anything. Now there's a nice section in the center of this that we can run the cable. I'm just looking to see where we can actually put the cable in to the front of the gun. So I'm just going to fit it together to see where those pieces join up. And yes, I think the little nut piece will work fine. So what we're going to do now is that we're going to drill a hole straight through this part. And then we're going to take this out and we're going to feed a cable in there. So first of all, let's drill through. Now if you don't have a drill, you can always melt a hole through, but be very careful when doing this. You don't want to burn yourself or damage the gun in any way. Now I've fed the cable through, and now we'll be able to connect this to the middle section of the gun. But first I need to remove this little nod where it's going to come in. So I'm just taking a needle nose pliers and I'm pulling it out to make sure it's going to fit through okay in place. Yeah, that looks good. Now I need to take out that little wall underneath, and then I'm going to feed it through at the bottom. So let's make a little hole with that, pull out a piece of plastic and make a little gully piece through the side as well. File it down a little bit so we have a nice little valley there for it to go through. Making sure that I haven't put any bumps or bent any plastic into the way that might stop it from fitting back together again. And screwing this back into place, as I think I might have to take something out of this orange piece at the top. So I'm just going to check first that that will lock into place still, and yes, I will need to remove a little piece of plastic off the orange connector piece to let the cable fit through properly. So I want it to go up here and behind. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take it off one more time, and then again using my needle nose pliers I'm going to clip away this piece of plastic. Screw it back on again. And that's firmly into place. I'm going to check one more time to make sure that the cable is going to fit through nicely. There we go, and it will fit up nice there at the back as well. And it will run down this part at the centre of the gun. Now, the cable must come out the end as well, so I'm going to remove the end socket to figure out where I'm going to put the cable out. Be very careful doing this so you're not going to dislodge any wires, and I realised that there's a nice hollow point behind the nod piece at this end as well, so I'm going to drill a hole through this to feed the cable out. So just here is where I'm going to make the hole. Again, very carefully with my drill, I'm going to drill a hole straight through this nod piece. And also into the main part of the housing, because the cable needs also to feed through here as well. Clean it out and then reattach. Clean away some plastic that I had got in the way. Now I'm going to firmly affix the front part of the gun onto the middle part by using some super glue. Again, be very careful when doing this not to get it everywhere, as we don't want it sticking things you don't need to stick to. So once you've attached it, let it set for a few seconds, and once it starts to cure, then you can start feeding the cable through. So I'm just going to leave it set now for a few seconds. And now that it's done, I'm going to feed the cable down through the centre of the gun, out through the hole that I've just made, and through the actual socket. Once that's done, then I can start placing back in the spacers in between the lights and the light covers, and again just screw it all back together again. Now, the end part of the gun. Removed all the screws, put them away to a safe place, make sure I'm not going to lose them. And we're going to find out, we're going to run the cable in through again through this little connection point. So I said before, removed all the screws, took them out, and I'm very carefully separating the end part of the gun. Now at the back there is a speaker and other wires, so be careful with these when opening it up. You don't want to pull out the connections. And the trigger will fall out a little bit, so take it out, keep it safe. Now I'm going to have to remove this front part because I need to make a hole for the cable to come in. So we're going to drill a hole in through that little piece here. So again, very careful, turning it around and taking our drill. We're just going to drill straight through. Now be careful not to hurt yourself or to damage any other parts inside. Clean out all the loose plastic. Feed your cable through. Reattach the orange connector and connect up to the next part. So now the middle part and the front part of the gun are all attached, and we have the cable into the back of the gun. Now on the trigger, these cables are fed through a kind of loop system, and if you push them back through a little bit, they expose the connecting wires. So I want to attach my end cables to these. So I'm just connecting them onto the exposed wire, and again just twisting them on, trying to make them as tight as possible so we have a firm connection. Now you may need to take a sharp knife or something to actually peel back the plastic a little bit if need be, but otherwise they should just connect on. Tidy up the cables a little bit, make sure everything's okay, make sure it's working. Just want to see if I can tidy it up a little bit more. Check again to see if it's working. Yeah, she's working fine now. Light is lighting up. Now I'm just going to take a bit of tape and keep these cables back a little bit. So first I'm just going to put the speaker back into place, and now I'm going to make sure my cables are all perfectly clear of everything, and I'm going to put some tape on that and it'll keep it all in place. So again, just taking a piece of electrical tape, I'm going to stick this on now and keep all my cables out of the way so they're not going to get pinched when we put the housing back together again. Very carefully put the trigger system back in. Make sure you haven't lost the spring. Make sure it works. And the light's lighting up. And then very carefully fold the housing back over and take your time sitting this back into place. Now it is a little bit fiddly because you do have pieces connecting onto the other side and there's a lot of cables inside, so take your time putting it back together and eventually it will fold it back into place. Once you've done that, just replace all the screws and tighten it up. Testing. Yeah, she's working fine. And you can see the light is lighting up. Perfect. And there she is. LED attached now to my Hasbro Ultimate clone rifle. Now thank you very much for watching. Hope this has been helpful. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments box below and I'll try to answer them for you. Get those blankets.